do appreciate being on your show and speaking to your audience.
No, I appreciate all these points. I think they're super relevant, and I appreciate the explanation you gave us in the Middle East. And again, I mean, you've had decades and decades and decades of experience there. So when you say it, it really sits well with me. You know, you mentioned this socialist takeover in America, and I wanted to really get your perspective on that. I also want to get your thoughts on the election, and of course, I want to get a little bit about, you know, your upcoming documentary. But you've said there's a socialist takeover in America. You know, what does that actually feel like on the ground? Is there any way to change this? You just talked about this interview that Tucker had, where this woman described something similar happening with Mao in China. You know, what are the ramifications of this? Will a new president, AKA Trump, be able to change this? Or is this something that's had decades to get momentum? And is it going to require a lot more to slow this down? Or is it even possible?
Yeah, you know, it's a great question. And another, I'll try to give you as brief an explanation as possible. But this is something I would love to come back on your show and have a completely different discussion about. So for your audience, in the late 60s, 1960s and early 1970s, there was a decision that the Democrat Party, we have two-party system primarily in the United States, Democrat, Republican, that the Democrat Party was going to be taken over by what I would call this very hardcore socialist movement. There are indications that was going to happen even as far back as when Eisenhower was the president. So among the things that they know they needed to do was they needed to get into our school systems and our education systems, right? And there's a lot of evidence of that over the period of time. I mean, Jimmy Carter, President Carter, in the late 70s is the one that created the Department of Education. We had other federal entities that overlooked that kind of stuff. But when the Department of Education was created by a Democrat, it was really purposely designed to make sure that this shift in our education system would occur, and things would begin to happen that would then culturalize our youth. And I would say that it started slow, and lately it's picked up a lot more momentum. So and also back then we had organizations like, and these were led by Democrat, the Democrat Party were part and parcel to these organizations, and two of them were the Weather Underground. Another one was Black Panther movement, right? The Weather Underground and Black Panther movement. People can go back and look at those and check those out. So I'm going to fast forward and jump a couple of decades to the here and now, because to get to your question. So now in this movement, tactically, we have new organizations that have similar backgrounds or similar intentions, right? We have the Black Lives Matter, we have Antifa. Then it was Weather Underground, Black Panther Party. Now it's Black Lives Matter, Antifa. None of these organizations have to do with color. They don't have to do with race. They have to do with ideology, political ideology. And the political ideology that we are experiencing in this country really has its foundations in Marxism. So I recently wrote a fairly extensive paper not too long ago, a couple of weeks ago, on communism in America. And I raise these issues because we are, there's something called democratic socialism. Democratic socialism is a component, and it is a hardcore component ideologically of the Democrat Party. And the Democrat Party in our country, I mean, so you're hearing from a person who was a lifelong Democrat. I grew up in a Democrat family. We were Democrats in the early 60s when John F. Kennedy was a Democrat. John F. Kennedy, there's no way in the world that he'd be a Democrat today. No way. His family can say whatever they want. That guy was a very conservative, pro-family, pro-business, pro-military, pro-Constitution, pro-America president. Sadly, he was assassinated. So where we are today is we have this democratic socialism infiltration into our government. There are many members of the House of Representatives and our U.S. Senate that are members of that party. I mean, Bernie Sanders is one of the guys that comes to mind. Ocasio-Cortez, Ilhan Omar. I mean, these are people that are socialists, and they believe in socialism. And there are many others. Some of them are a little bit quieter, but they all seem to vote on a party line, on one line, whereas the conservative side can't figure out, which end is up, what they're going to do. And we call it, I call it, I've written about it, called the uniparty. So America is going through a cultural revolution. It started decades ago. It clearly is in our education institutions. It's in our healthcare institutions. Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, remember Hillary Care back in the 90s?
Yeah.
Right? Well, they could not get it into place. Barack Obama comes to the fore. They got the education system going. They get the healthcare system going, and they get control of it at the federal level. And then the next thing that you get control of in a cultural revolution is the justice system, or the rule of law system. And so those three components, education, healthcare, and justice, all three of those absolutely impact every single person's life. Never mind the economy, or the price of a gallon of gas, or the price of a loaf of bread, that you're trying to put on your table. You have those three components. Our kids go to schools. We all need health care of some type. And then our justice system, which is really not so much the persecution that President Trump is feeling, but it's the rule of law in a society. And right now we clearly have two standards. We have two standards of law in our country. Those who are conservative and part of sort of believe in this idea of America first, and those who are the progressive. I don't say liberal, because I count myself, I'm a liberally minded guy, but progressive, democratic, socialist component of our country. And the phrase that I like to use is 2% of the passionate will defeat 98% of the indifferent 100% of the time. And believe me, Brian, and your audience, there's a very passionate group of leftists that run this country right now. And I mean, run this country. They run the intelligence community. They run large swaths of our justice system. They run our education system. All of these things that we're seeing, all the school board hearings that we're now seeing in America, and people attacking these various books and these various things that they're teaching, the whole transgender movement. So this cultural revolution is something that we are going through. We are definitely in the midst of a cultural revolution. Is it akin to what happened in the Chinese, Red Party cultural revolution? It has similarities, and there are big strategic pieces that I can point to that would say, yep, those are roughly the same. Education would be one of those things that I would point to. And the challenge for America right now, and I think for the world, because if we don't survive, then I think the world is going to go down this path with us. The challenge for America is that we have to get people off their rear ends to get out and participate as citizens. I use this phrase: local action equals a national impact. This is a citizens-led government. That's our republic. That's our form of government. We're a republic form of government. And, we the people, right? And I do believe that the American people in general have been complacent. Some have been lazy for the last few decades. And we've just sort of let, that's just politics as usual kind of attitude, right? And we cannot have that. That's why Donald Trump.
To continue watching the rest of the episode for free, visit our website, londonreal.tv, or click the link in the description below.